Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. I'm going to be talking about the best fragrance releases of 2022, and really, in my opinion, there's just one love for me for each of the three big fragrance categories. So I have one big masculine fragrance love, one big feminine fragrance love, and one big unisex fragrance love. So if you're interested in knowing what those are, stay tuned. For those of you who are new here, my name is Ashley. I've been working in the fragrance industry for about 10 years now. I now work doing fragrance creation for a major fragrance company as an apprentice perfumer. And if you're interested in fragrance videos from an informed perspective, consider subscribing to the channel. So I really wanted to do this video because I feel like 2022 has actually been an amazing year for fragrances. And the reason that I feel this way is because I actually get to smell pretty much all the new releases. I talked about this a bit before in my other videos, but as I work as an apprentice perfumer for a major fragrance house, one of the things that is provided to us is all the major fragrance releases, both niche and designer, as they come out. And we receive them in small little sample vials with homogeneous labels. So you're able to smell them blindly without any indicator to the gender, any obvious indicator to the gender, branding, or fragrance name. So the way that I like to do it, I just like to kind of put the bottles and like blindly grab one, dip my blotter in, smell, take some notes, see what sticks out to me, and then afterwards see the fragrance branding, look up what the bottle looks like, all that. And what I find this gives me the ability to do is actually see what fragrances I love, truly blind with no bias. And I feel like that's so important because even when you've been in the industry a long time, even when you work in the industry, of course you have favorite brands, favorite perfumers, and all of that. So it's nice to be able to smell this way. And oftentimes I am surprised what ends up being my favorite. And there are definitely at least one pick in this video that was a big surprise to me. So I'm going to start with my feminine fragrance pick first. But if you're a guy who's into musky or rosy fragrances, I definitely suggest staying tuned for this fragrance review because I feel it's actually quite unisex, even if it's not my unisex pick, because it's in the feminine fragrance category. The best feminine release I feel for 2022 so far is Narciso Rodriguez's Musk Noir Rose for Her. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's also an amazing fragrance. So if you're familiar with the Narciso Rodriguez brand, you know they do some of the best musky fragrances on the market right now. It's absolutely one of my favorite fragrance brands because I love musky fragrances. And I really feel like Sonia Constant, who is the perfumer behind the brand, is kind of the queen of musk. She really knows what she's doing. She's been working for this brand for quite a while now. If you know Pure Musk, which is another one of my all-time favorite musks, she's also the perfumer behind that fragrance, and she really seems to have mastered this fragrance category and does it so beautifully. And Musk Noir Rose is no exception. The notes that I'm picking up the most are the plum, which we also found in the Musk Noir here, but I find it's just made a little bit more fruity floral with the rose, which for me personally makes it even more enjoyable. And then of course we have this really nice cuddly musk that we see in a lot of Narciso Rodriguez's fragrances. And then this vanilla suede dry down, which gives it the addictive factor that I personally was really, really looking for. And it's just a beautiful fragrance, one that I'll definitely be adding to my collections. Now on to my masculine pick. Okay, so I have talked about this fragrance on my channel before, and I was so happy and relieved with how many of you guys agreed with me that this fragrance was amazing and definitely a surprise. And that's because when I first talked about this fragrance on my channel, I thought I was going to get a lot of hate for it because this fragrance is a flanker of a very polarizing fragrance. It's 1 Million Elixir. And yeah, this fragrance blew me away when I smelled it. I could immediately tell it was a masculine release just by the style of the fragrance. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to like finally start smelling this on people, hopefully get a bottle for, you know, the special person in my life. I was immediately hooked. And it is very different. Now I've had a chance to compare this flanker to the original. There is some similar DNA with the 1 million elixir to the original 1 million, but it's a different fragrance. So if you aren't a fan of 1 million, I still definitely think you should go and smell the elixir. I like the original 1 million, but it wasn't one of my like top 10 men's fragrances personally. I think it did what it needed to do. Actually, I think this fragrance kind of started encouraging sweeter notes in men's perfumery, and I love that. I love that it was something different in the market at the time. But I think what puts people off of this fragrance is that it has a lot of jammy, almost syrupy, fruity notes, and then it pairs them with mint and then spices like cinnamon. And I think sometimes that combination triggers something medicinal in people's fragrances, or sweet and cloying. And I think it's a specific mixture. Now, if you don't have that association, and I don't personally, I think it's a very nice fragrance, but I think that's why there's so many reviews talking about how cloying this fragrance is, or sweet or medicinal. I think it could be that pairing. So what the elixir does different is it almost kind of like nichifies it. It gives it this fruity ambery accord instead of this fruity spicy accord, and this fruity minty accord. And so it's not medicinal at all. You have top notes of apple and davina, so you have this really nice fruity. Then you have a rose and cedar at the heart. Again, more notes that I love. And at the base, you have this kind of like ambery, balsamic, vanilla, woody thing. So there's a lot going on. You have fruity, you have a rose, and you have woody. And it just works really, really well. It's all spectacularly blended. I think it's really hard to get one note over the other, but I say fruity, woody, ambery is how I would describe this fragrance, and just spectacularly done. For those of you who haven't smelled Davana, it's actually an herb that smells somewhere in between a plum and a peach with a slight green facet, so it plays really well with that apple note. And yeah, I was just so impressed by this launch, because again, I liked 1 million, but it wasn't like a heartthrob or didn't take my breath away, and this fragrance really did. So I really suggest searching it out next time you're at a Sephora. And for my unisex pick, I have Saffron Amra by Amouage. Now, these attars are very expensive. There's no kind of getting around that. And I was very nervous for this launch, because I'm sure we've all seen these very expensive fragrance launches and you smell them and you don't really get why. But I felt like with this release, they did an incredible job. Every single one of the fragrances in this line is special. I am a huge saffron lover and I'm a huge vanilla lover. And so those two are my favorite in this line. The saffron just ever so slightly edging out the vanilla to be my unisex pick. But if you love oud, I'm sure you'll love their oud. If you love rose, I'm sure you'll love their rose. Every fragrance in this line is done so beautifully. And it was something that I really worried about, because the Amouage attars are something very dear to me. When I first started my fragrance journey, I actually used to get samples of the attars imported from Abu Dhabi to me. And I would like literally spend my allowance on these like 1/2 ml samples that I would like get from a woman living there that I found on a Facebook group. Like, I was very passionate and I had quite a few. It wasn't just the normal homage and tribute. I had like 4 or 5 others that you could really only find in the Middle East. And they were so special to me and I really treasured them. And so when this line, and it was eventually that whole line, I believe, was discontinued. I couldn't find it anymore or source it anymore. So when these came out, I was like, are they going to live up to this legacy? And I absolutely feel like they do. They are so, so well done. If you have the chance to smell them, I really recommend, going to that corner of the fragrance booth and smelling through the whole line, because you will not be disappointed. It's an absolute delight for the senses. Let me know what your favorite fragrance releases were for 2022, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.